The crystal chandeliers shimmered like 1,000 watching eyes, as the grand doors of the luxury hotel opened to reveal a woman standing alone in a borrowed black dress, her hands trembling as she clutched a small purse to her chest. No one noticed her fear at first. They only saw another quiet figure slipping into a room full of power, wealth, and polished smiles. But within minutes, the entire hall would be forced into silence by a truth so shocking it would change lives forever. Tonight, a man would be exposed for the way he treated the woman who had loved him when he had nothing. And the woman he tried to erase would rise in front of everyone who once looked through her as if she did not exist. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of truth, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that respect can never be replaced by status, and love should never be hidden behind shame. Her name was Elena, and she had spent most of her life learning how to survive without being seen. She grew up in a small town where dreams were fragile and opportunities were rare. Her mother cleaned houses to pay school fees, and Elena studied at night under dim lights, believing education was the only road out. When she met Victor years ago, he was not the confident businessman he was now. He was a struggling intern with ambition but no direction. They fell in love quietly, bonded by late-night talks about the future and shared cups of cheap coffee. Elena believed in him before anyone else did. She supported him through job rejections, unpaid internships, and moments when he nearly gave up. When Victor finally landed a corporate position, she celebrated as if it were her own victory. But success changed Victor in ways Elena never imagined. Slowly, his words became sharper, his pride heavier, and his gratitude thinner. The woman who once held his hand through storms was now treated like a shadow behind him. At home, Elena still cooked, cleaned, and encouraged him. Outside, Victor rarely acknowledged her presence. He told colleagues she was just someone who helped around the house. He convinced himself it was easier than explaining his past. He believed status required separation from anything that looked humble. Elena felt the shift deeply but stayed silent, hoping it was only a phase. The business gala was supposed to be a turning point for Victor's career. The company's elite partners, foreign investors, and executives would be there. Rumors said the CEO himself would announce a new leadership program. Victor saw it as his chance to shine. When Elena asked if she could attend with him, her voice was soft, filled with hope. He hesitated, then reluctantly agreed, but made one cruel decision that would define the night. He introduced her not as his wife, but as his maid. To him, it was protection. To her, it was humiliation wrapped in polite lies. As they entered the ballroom, Elena felt every gaze slide past her expensive dress and rest on Victor's confident posture. The music played softly, glasses clinked, and laughter filled the air. Victor spoke proudly with colleagues while Elena stood behind him, silent and invisible. When someone asked who she was, Victor casually dismissed her as household help who insisted on attending. Elena's heart broke each time the word passed his lips. Maid. Helper. Nothing more. The woman who had sacrificed years for his success was reduced to a role with no name. She tried to steady herself by remembering who she was before this moment. She was not weak. She had studied hospitality management in college but gave up her career plans to support Victor's long work hours. What he did not know was that Elena had quietly built her own path. Months earlier, she had been recruited by the very company hosting the gala, not as staff but as a consultant for international client relations. Her skills, her intelligence, and her warmth had impressed executives. Tonight, she was not attending as a guest. She was attending as the official host of the event. Victor had no idea. As the lights dimmed and the CEO stepped onto the stage, silence fell across the room. He spoke about dedication, loyalty, and the unseen people who make success possible. Then he smiled and announced that the evening would be guided by someone who represented those values perfectly. He called Elena's name. For a moment, Elena did not move. The sound echoed through the hall, sharp and clear. Heads turned. Whispers spread. Victor froze where he stood, his face draining of color. The woman he had just introduced as a maid walked forward with calm dignity. The CEO praised her achievements, her background, and her role in securing key partnerships. He thanked her publicly for organizing the gala and for her leadership in the company's future plans. Elena stood under the spotlight, her voice steady as she welcomed the guests and introduced the program. There was no anger in her expression, only grace and quiet strength. The room erupted in applause. Victor felt as though the ground had vanished beneath him. His coworkers stared at him with confusion and judgment. The lie he had told so easily now collapsed in front of everyone. As the night continued, Elena performed her duties flawlessly. She moved among the guests with confidence, speaking to investors, guiding executives, and earning respect with every step. Victor remained in the shadows, watching the woman he thought he could hide become the most admired person in the room. Shame pressed against his chest. He realized how small he had made her feel and how small he had become himself. When the gala ended and the crowd slowly dispersed, Victor approached Elena with trembling hands. For the first time in years, he saw her clearly, not as someone behind him, but as someone beside him. He remembered the girl who believed in him when he had nothing, the woman who stayed when success made him cruel. He felt regret like a heavy stone in his stomach. Elena did not speak immediately. She simply looked at him, her eyes filled with pain but also understanding. She told him that love cannot survive without respect, and that silence can hurt as much as betrayal. She explained that she had grown tired of shrinking herself so he could appear larger. Tonight was not revenge, it was truth. Victor realized that his fear of being judged had turned him into the very person he once despised. He had chosen pride over partnership and image over integrity. He asked for forgiveness, not with excuses but with humility. He promised to rebuild what he had broken, not with words but with actions. Days passed, and the story of the gala spread through the company. Instead of destroying Victor's career, it forced him to confront himself. He began acknowledging Elena openly, introducing her proudly as his wife, and as a professional in her own right. He attended events beside her, not ahead of her. Slowly, trust began to return. Elena did not forget the pain, but she allowed growth to take its place. Their marriage changed. It became stronger, built not on dependency but on mutual respect. Victor learned that success means nothing if the person who helped you reach it is treated as invisible. Elena learned that her worth was never defined by how others labeled her. It lived in her courage to stand when it mattered most. Before the ending, I have a special request for you. Please comment the word respect if you believe no one should ever be ashamed of the people who love them, and tell us what part of this story touched you the most. In the months that followed, Elena continued rising in her career, mentoring young women who felt unseen, and reminding them that silence does not mean weakness. Victor became known not just for his work, but for his honesty about his mistakes. Together, they turned a moment of humiliation into a lesson of dignity and change. And now, as you reflect on this story, remember this truth. The people who walk beside you in your darkest times deserve to be honored in your brightest moments. Love is not something to hide. It is something to protect. Respect is not given by titles but by actions. And sometimes the greatest justice is simply allowing the truth to be seen. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and leave a comment to show your support. Your engagement helps keep stories of kindness, growth, and second chances alive. Together, we can remind the world that humility is stronger than pride and love is stronger than fear.